And we're going live.
Excellent.
And we're going live.
We're live. Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome on this snowy day here in Ottawa to the, well, hello, everybody. I'm hearing an echo. To the 2022 Ottawa DreamKEEPERS Awards. This is the 17th year that DreamKEEPERS has brought us together to celebrate people who are helping keep Martin Luther King's dream of a better and more equitable world alive. And our theme this year is raising up our change agents, and today we will recognize 5 people who continue to be positive agents for change in our communities. But before we get started, I want to do a land acknowledgement and acknowledge that we here in Ottawa recognize that we're on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people and extend our respect to them for their centuries-long stewardship of the land. We also recognize that this is the land to which our African ancestors were forcibly brought and upon whose forced labor its current wealth is partly built. We acknowledge the resistance Indigenous people and our ancestors have constantly maintained against their oppressors and commit to keeping up that resistance. Ici à Ottawa, nous reconnaissons que nous sommes sur le territoire non cédé du peuple algonquin Anishinaabe. Nous leur témoignons notre respect pour leur gestion séculaire de la terre. Nous reconnaissons également que c'est la terre sur laquelle nos ancêtres africains ont été amenés de force et sur le travail forcé de laquelle sa recherche actuellement est partiellement construite. Et nous reconnaissons la résistance que les peuples autochtones et nos ancêtres ont constamment maintenue contre leurs oppresseurs et nous nous engageons à maintenir cette résistance. So again, this is about our awardees today, so we're going to get into that. But again, right before we do want to acknowledge one thing, and that is a very special day in the life of one of DreamKEEPER's longtime supporters, and that is June Gervin, whose birthday it is today. So we want to wish June a very happy birthday and thank her for all the efforts that she's done over the years to make Ottawa a better place in general, but for children in particular. So happy birthday, June. And with that, I will invite Sonia Howard to introduce our first DreamKEEPERS, appropriately, June Gervin Youth in Service Award. Sonia.
Hello, everyone. And it's a real pleasure to join you here on this snowy day in Odawa, aka Ottawa. And I have the pleasure of introducing Patrick Anthony Aya Olone, member of the Yellowknives Dene First Nation, Northwest Territories, now living in Ottawa. And I'm especially glad to tell you that I believe he embodies the values of minority rights, racial harmony, and reconciliation. I've had the opportunity to know Patrick maybe since he was in grade 4 or grade 5, and he's in grade 11 now. So I can say that as a child, Patrick regularly attended reconciliation education events in Ottawa, as well as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, or TRC, national event in Montreal, where he participated and assisted with a birthday celebration to honor all the survivors who never had their birthday celebrated in residential schools. He also attended the culminating closing ceremony of the TRC in Ottawa with his school and with family. He has also learned from his father, Tim Olone, who served with the TRC and attended events across Canada where residential school survivors shared their testimonies, and Patrick was exposed to and heard the stories, truth, and wisdom of survivors. Guided by a spirit of reconciliation, Patrick now helps and supports the community-based Mama We Together and their reconciliation initiatives here in Ottawa, working with local schools, Indigenous youth, artists, and elders in his community, both in Ottawa and other communities. Patrick has co-emceed and taken part in Mama We Together annual reconciliation events and learning activities with his school and as a volunteer. These events aim to bring Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth and community members together across Ottawa to honor residential school survivors, learn more about the history and continued present-day impacts of residential schools, and explore tangible actions everyone can take towards reconciliation on an individual, family, community, and national level. With the support of his father, Tim Alone, a reconciliation and mental health ambassador, Indigenous veterans' rights activist, and his non-Indigenous mother, Margaret Embleton, the co-founders of Mama We Together, Patrick is reconnecting, in fact, with his traditional territory, community, and elders of Deline, as well as the Yellowknives Dene First Nation Northwest Territories. A grade 11 student at Hillcrest High School in Ottawa, Patrick pursues his additional passions as a member of the Indigenous Youth Council with the Ottawa Carleton School Board. He has also attended Inspire's Soaring Youth Conference with Indigenous youth from across Canada. In the summer of 2019, he also completed the newly created Indigenous Studies Credit History course taught from an Indigenous perspective with land-based activities. Patrick is in the academic French immersion program at Hillcrest High School. His favorite elective subjects are auto mechanics and outdoor education, and he is passionate about hockey, volleyball, and any outdoor sport or activity, but especially skiing, swimming, and fishing. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Patrick for this award. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I'm very humbled to receive this prestigious award, and I would like to start by honoring the survivors of the residential schools. I'm very aware of the Black Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s and aware of the impact it has of the Indigenous Civil Rights Movement in Canada. I'm very honored that I'm a descendant of activists like my great-grandfather, George Bonin, who was the VP of the Dene Nation in the 1970s, and my Aunt Ethel, who was our MP in the 1980s and the 1990s. In 2006, my family moved to Ottawa from Yellowknife, and my parents worked with the school board to ensure that we as Indigenous children are accepted in our new school and community. This is what started a community-based reconciliation initiative called Mama We Together. As a youth of today, I feel obligated in participating in positive actions to continue to move forward on reconciliation. In closing, I am humbled to receive the Martin Luther King Award, and I promise to continue Martin Luther King's legacy to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Well deserved, man. It's let me tell you, as a as a full-time activist, it is great to see young people like yourself, man. I will now invite Amin Khashoggi to introduce our second DreamKEEPERS June Gervin Youth in Service Awardee. Amin.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know Mayor Watson's not with us, but I'll reach out to him anyway. Mayor Watson, distinguished guests, Mr. Stringer, and fellow DreamKEEPERS. I want to thank the mayor for his unwavering support, and he's always been there for DreamKEEPERS. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Ralston King for his support and in working with DreamKEEPERS over the years as well. Also, I'd like to extend a special thank you to members of the mayor's staff, and they've always been there for us at the last moment, coming through for DreamKEEPERS, and really appreciate all the support. Moving on, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce our awardee, Cynthia Aulani. It's not often that we have the privilege of knowing youth that make a clear, positive, and meaningful impact on our society. Today, I have the honor to introduce 16-year-old Cynthia Aulani, a youth volunteer leader in the Smiley community, who is making a positive and meaningful impact on Canadian society. Cynthia wrote a book on anti-bullying at the age of 9 called Goodbye Bullying. It is where her journey began as a young volunteer. While she has received many recognitions for her volunteer work and many honor awards for her academic work, she continues to strive at looking how to better society. She is dedicated, caring, and a volunteer full of energy, always wanting to help out. During the pandemic, she has run the day-to-day operations of the Ismaili Jamaat Khana, known as a mosque, conducting and organizing events via Zoom, and has been instrumental in recruiting youth volunteers and ensuring the safety and security of all worshippers. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please help me in welcoming Sindhya Alwani. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It is a pleasure to be in the company of so many individuals who are striving to keep the dream alive. So Martin Luther King Jr., he was one of the most inspiring and influential people of the 20th century. We all heard his I Have a Dream speech in school, and we all learned about how his efforts against segregation impacted the society they lived in back then and how much it's impacted the society we live in now. And this award, it honors a young person who's created some sort of impact as a way to help build towards Martin Luther King's dream. And I actually first found out that I'd been nominated for this award last week when I got the email inviting me to the ceremony in itself. As I sat there on my kitchen floor rereading the email at least 7 times for sure, I realized what a huge honor it is to be a recipient of this award. So thank you so much. I first started volunteering around the age of 5. I was helping at a religious community center with small various tasks. And as time went on, I continued to volunteer there. And at the age of 9 years old, I attempted to make my first impactful experience by writing a book about anti-bullying. I believed and still very much do believe that bullying is an issue that needs to be addressed right away in early childhood to prevent it from turning into something like racism, ageism, or sexism, or any sort of segregator later in life. To spread this message, I gave presentations and I wrote articles for the next few years. Towards this end, I made presentations on the ill treatment of our Indigenous people, and I wrote articles about the possible negative impacts technology could have on our younger members of society. Although I don't write as much anymore, my plan was always to continue to use my voice and bring meaningful message to society. Of course, COVID happened, threw a little wrench in my plans, so I had to modify my approach a little bit. So I began focusing on volunteering within my religious community as a way to help the people around me as much as I possibly could. Just having direct interaction with them, I realized how much more I enjoy it, and it really it allowed me to learn how to appreciate the term of pluralism. And when you work with such a diverse group of people with such different mindsets and backgrounds, you realize how much opportunity that lies there to make meaningful impacts on society and how much work there still is in terms of human progress. My plan is to fully live and promote these values, the values of Martin Luther King, the values of social justice and equal rights. And I will do my best to radiate these values as much as I possibly can. And I will try to spread my messages to presentations and with direct engagement within the community. I definitely hope to inspire a couple of people around along the way, whether it's the 4-year-olds I help teach on Saturdays, or it's the seniors that I meet, that I see on a weekly basis within the community. Lastly, I believe that the type of contribution you're making makes no difference. What is important is that you're making a contribution. You shouldn't think about the size of potential impact you may have, but think about the change you wish to bring to society as a whole. Let's continue to create an environment where people feel comfortable enough to share their opinions and concerns, where everyone has equal opportunity, and where people have hope in their hearts rather than fear. Let's build towards this so we can have the beloved community that Martin Luther King dreamed of. Once again, I wanted to say thank you so much for the people who inspired and motivated me along the way. And thank you so much for this opportunity, as I'm honored to be a recipient of the DreamKEEPERS Junior and Youth in Service Award for 2022.
Wow. Thank you, Cynthia. Well, there's well deserved again and again. As I said earlier, it is great to see young folks, doing great things, and because we have obviously some big challenges in the world. Awesome. Let me just take a look here. Do we have the mayor is going to join us, but I don't think he's joined us yet. All right. Puisque nous célébrons l'héritage de Martin Luther King, nous allons faire quelque chose qu'il aurait certainement fait, exprimer notre solidarité avec l'enseignante de Chelsea au Québec, Fatima Anvari, qui a été retirée de sa classe pour avoir porté son hijab. Martin Luther King aurait rejoint les nombreuses personnes exprimant leur soutien à Fatima alors qu'il a donné sa vie en se battant pour les choses qui unissaient les gens, pas pour les choses qui les divisaient. That having said, I'm just going to check again 1 second to see if the mayor has joined us. Has the mayor joined us, folks?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. In that case, then I am going to invite June Gervin to introduce the award, our DreamKEEPERS citation for outstanding leadership. Our first one, actually. June.
I'm really very pleased to be offering this on behalf of Daniel Stringer, organizer of 17 years now of the DreamKEEPERS. Very pleased to be offering this award to Floyd Hutchison. Offering it to Floyd for developing strategies and action plans to increase diversity in the Ottawa Police Force. For organizing events to harmonize potential rifts between policing and diverse communities. For enhancing the Youth in Policing Initiative program while being its coordinator. For being a role model for younger officers through Floyd's exemplary practice of flexibility, honesty, compassion, and empathy, and well-earned reputation for integrity. For volunteering in pastoral care at the Ottawa Hospital with the critical situation team to mediate conflict situations between visible minorities and Aboriginal communities and the police with the United Way and other community projects. For Floyd, a grateful Ottawa salutes you. Now, we know that Floyd is not going to be here because Floyd can't be here, unfortunately. But Floyd has sent us a message. As I mentioned before, I unfortunately will not be able to attend. I am humbled by receiving this award. The principles that Martin Luther King lived by are ones I try hard to incorporate in my own daily life. Throughout my career and in my personal life, I have felt it very important to give back. We have all been assisted by someone and benefited from someone's help. It takes many people to build a viable community. I'm really honored to be part of this community. From Floyd.
Thank you, June. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to, we actually have 3 outstanding leadership awards that we're giving out today. And I will now invite Sahada Alalo to introduce our second recipient. Sahada.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Sahada Alolo, and I am extremely pleased, actually a very great honor to introduce my friend, Ayan, who is also my sister in faith. And it is such an honor because Ayan is someone who inspires me and countless others to do good work. And Ayan leads with authenticity. For those of you who do not know, and I'm sure most of you don't know her, and the reason why you don't know her is because Ayan is the kind of community builder who shies away from public light. Receiving this an honor actually is something that Ayan reluctantly accepted because she's always trying to do things from behind the scene and shying away from any kind of recognition. So Ayan, thank you so much for accepting this award and for your willingness to be put on the spotlight for once. I think you well deserve it. Ayan has dedicated her life to creating initiatives to alleviate barriers faced by vulnerable groups, Ayan has dedicated much of her working life to finding solutions to Ottawa's most pressing social issues by creating spaces that allow for marginalized people to thrive and realize their potential. Some of Ayan's initiatives include Women's Power Lunch, a platform in which women from any background can seek knowledge and inspiration from other women in the community. Ayan is also the founder and president of Samawada and Gateways to Success, a program that bridges the gap between access and youth in the Ottawa community through mentorship. Most importantly, Ayan is well known for being the founder of Harmony Iftar. And for those of you who don't know Harmony Iftar, it is an event organized by Ayan and her team during the month of Ramadan, where Muslims fast to invite people of all faiths to come together with Muslims. In today's world where people want to use our differences to divide us, especially our religious beliefs, Ayan saw the need to bring people who are non-Muslims to feast with Muslims so we can break the barriers that tend to separate us. Ayan also sits on a number of boards. Very honored to be sitting on the board with Ayan at the Ottawa Muslim Women's Organization, which I am a president of. Ayan serves as the vice president of the Ottawa Muslim Women Organization. She also holds a seat on the board of Young Voices Canada, and is also on the advisory committee for the Canadian Institute of Health Research Project. I don't know where she finds the time for it, but because she's such an inspirational lady and committed and passionate about making change in our community, Ayan finds time to do all these things. Ayan has also served in the past with Multi-Faith Housing Initiative by sitting on the Tulipatam Committee, a committee that organizes a charitable work to raise funds for affordable housing. So please welcome Ayan, and it is my pleasure that to introduce Ayan to receive this award. Thank you.
Robin, if I may, Robin, if just before Ayan speaks, Jim Puskas is sitting there. He's the president of Rito Kiwanis, our sponsor, and he's very happy to read the plaque that we're giving to Ayan.
That's good.
Be glad to do. Please let me know. I'll be happy to do so. It's my honor. DreamKEEPERS citation for outstanding leadership to Ayan Duale for founding Samawada, a charity devoted to water security in East Africa with new wells and conservation. Harmony Iftar Dinner invites all faiths, breaking barriers, fostering understanding and respect. Women's Power Lunch Ottawa, women empowering women to actualize their dreams, providing a safe space to express themselves and to discuss issues. Gateway to Success, which empowers youth from marginalized communities by creating opportunities for them to improve their socioeconomic situation. Taste of Africa, which displays the wealth of culture and tradition in the countries of this grand continent. New Entrepreneurs of Ottawa Network brings together small business owners to exchange resources and showcase their expertise. January 2022, a grateful Ottawa salutes you.
Thank you, Jim. Ayan, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah and Jim. Hello, everyone. I began by humbly thanking you all for awarding me this honor. Ottawa has been my home for over 2 decades now, and I have had the privilege to meet many inspiring and brilliant community advocates. To be selected among a peer group of exceptional talent means the world to me. Canada became my home after my family and I fled the civil war in our native Somalia. I still remember the day I arrived. A scared young person wondering what life has in store for me. It was a time of great uncertainty, but of a great promise as well. When times were dark, I found solace in reading the biographies of inspiring figures. From Viola Desmond to Malcolm X to Nelson Mandela. Learning about towering figures of Black history gave me a sense of confidence and offered me access to a different life. A life that centers empowerment and enlightenment. Rather than resigning myself to a life of self-enrichment. However, the person who is most integral to my path to a community advocacy was Martin Luther King. Perhaps for like many of you, Martin Luther King transcends borders. He wasn't just an American hero, but a gift to all humanity. My copy of 1998, a book, The Autobiography of Martin Luther King, is a mess of folded corners and highlighted sections with a wisdom emanating from every single page. However, the quote that has resonated with me the most is, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Growing up in Somali household, to be a service of others was supposed to be a given. Selfishness was not tolerated. However, the value I grew up with were not always reflected in the world. I remember one day seeing a young woman drop a stack of papers in an office, only for everyone to walk past her. Quickly, I watched as she scrambled to get all the papers. Some with footprints, since some did not even bother to even walk around her. I watched until she got herself in order and walked away. Later that day, I told my sister about the incident. She looked at me with a puzzled face. What did you, and she said, why didn't you help her? From some reason, that simple question left me flustered. Well, I was too far away from her. Or actually, I was really busy. But how busy could I have been if I could watch the entire unseen fold? Looking back, the entire scenario seems innocent. All of those people who walked past could have been in their own bubbles and not even noticed the woman. However, it really changed my perspective on my place in the world. For far too many of us, we expect someone else to solve the world's pressing issues. Perhaps because we're too busy or because we don't think we're smart enough. We defer to those we think have the power to enact change. But what if everyone thought like that? We would still be living in the dark ages. If there's one lesson I have learned from the likes of Martin Luther King and other towering figures of history, it's that we can be the change makers we seek. All it takes is realizing the vast potential in store in all of us and a little encouragement. The moment I have felt the most despondent are also the moment I have felt the most alone. It's through finding community like the one here today, that we realize that the world's problem are not only one person's shoulders, but the burden we all share. And because of that, it's incumbent on all of us to be part of the solution. I might be the one receiving an award today, but I have been supported by, collaborated with, celebrated with friends, family, and community members. And so I hope we all continue to be in a community and that we all come to realize the vital roles we play in the ecosystem of life. Thank you and be safe.
Thank you, Ayan. Now, the mayor has now joined us, and I will now give the floor to the mayor for our annual proclamation.
Great, thank you very much, Robin. I'm sorry we had some technical problems getting me logged in, but it's great to see so many familiar faces. And thank you for allowing me a moment to read the proclamation. I only wish we could meet in person, but even if we didn't have COVID, I think the snow would have kept us apart. So it's nice to have this technology to celebrate a great leader, Martin Luther King. And it's wonderful to see the Honorable Jean Augustine here, such a trailblazer, and Daniel and Robin and all the organizers. Thank you for pulling us all together. Whereas Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. committed his life to promoting justice and equality and to ending the injustice of racism through nonviolent social change, entendu que le Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. a consacré sa vie à la promotion de la justice et de l'égalité et de l'élimination de l'injustice et de racisme grâce à des changements sociaux non violents. Whereas the City of Ottawa strives to be an open and welcoming community, embracing and respecting all cultures, races, and religions, and takes pride in celebrating multiculturalism. And whereas the African Canadian community of Ottawa, proud of its culture and contribution to the nation's capital, reserves and respects the third Monday in January as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, entendu que les DreamKEEPERS ont pris l'initiative de marquer chaque année la journée Martin Luther King Jr. à l'Hôtel de Ville. Par conséquent, chez Jim Watson, maire de la ville d'Ottawa, programme par la présente le 17 janvier 2022, journée de Martin Luther King Jr. à Ottawa. Therefore, I, Jim Watson, mayor of the City of Ottawa, do hereby proclaim January 17th, 2022, Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Ottawa. Thank you all for allowing me to say a few words, and I wish you continued success, and thank the committee for pulling us together. I see June Gervin's there, another great friend, and Councillor King, thank you very much for your leadership on the Anti-Racism Secretariat that is doing much good work, and it shows that we have much more to do to fight racism. We see it, unfortunately, far too often, whether it's at a mosque or a synagogue or language and on social media. Alors, merci beaucoup à la personne qui est responsable pour cet événement très important, très spécial. Et j'espère que l'année prochaine, on va discuter l'histoire de Martin Luther King en personne à l'Hôtel de Ville. Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will now invite Councillor King to introduce our third DreamKEEPERS citation for outstanding leadership. Ralston.
Thank you so much, Robin. And I want to echo the words of the mayor. I want to thank everybody who has really put this awards together. I think it is important recognition of Black excellence in our city, and also very important to recognize Martin Luther King. So the next award, and I have the great pride in actually introducing this nomination, is Ketchup Peters for the DreamKEEPERS Citation for Outstanding Leadership Award. Ms. Peters, as we know, has assisted the Black community in public engagement, especially in the areas of justice, equity, diversity and inclusion work at both the municipal and community level with a focus on anti-racism and anti-oppression. Her trauma-informed approach is designed to facilitate communication in historically marginalized communities in order to drive cultural transformation. As the former community co-chair of the Ottawa Community Police Action Committee, or Compact, she managed efforts to bring awareness around issues of policing and criminal justice. She worked with representatives of the Ottawa Police Service and Indigenous and racialized communities in the Black community to develop conflict resolution programs that were helpful in proactively resolving critical incidents between the police and diverse communities in Ottawa. As part of her effort, in her role, she worked with a team of community members and police officials to restructure the committee into the new Ottawa Police Community Equity Council. Ms. Peters is an award-winning community activist who has won numerous awards. I'm always impressed with this wide number of awards, one of them being the 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women 2020 Award, the Global Community Alliance Community Builder Award for 2020 as well. In 2018, she won the Black History Ottawa Community Builder Award. In 2016, she won the J.S. Woodsworth Award for Human Rights and Equity. The number of awards is numerous. And she is also, in her spare time, an accomplished entrepreneur who established the Ketchup Peters Group, which offers equity and diversity consulting and has experience in ownership and management of elder care facilities. Based upon her wide range of experience, I'm pleased that she has been given due consideration and has been awarded the Citation for Outstanding Leadership Award by the DreamKEEPERS. Congratulations, Ketchia.
Thank you so much, Marcin King. Imagwe said that the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. But there's no harsher thing to do though. Because all in my life, I've never been 100% sure I could have trusted someone at first. But then again, one must trust somebody in order to know if you could trust them. That's essentially what leadership is forged on, trust. I couldn't be the person I am now, the leader and the entrepreneur I am now, without colleagues and friends and employees whom I trust. That's why I want to accept this award by thanking the people who surround me, the ones I trust, the ones who trusted me all along. That's why I'm beginning this speech with those words, because it doesn't exist a true leader that does it alone, that changes things with none around. Thank you so. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time, your energy. Thank you for the sweat and emotions and the constant participation moving along this legacy that is the fight for justice. The ever right and ever noble battle we power through each and every single day to make our society a better place. All my ideas, all my projects, all the things I've done with your help. Because I've trusted you and you helped me and gave me strength. I want to thank others also, DreamKEEPERS, for this award to begin with. And I want to thank our allies who toil around alongside our communities in the struggle we still live in today. Thank you to the community themselves. They must solve a problem and face crisis pretty much every other day. It's kind of like a mom, a community, constantly preoccupied, harsh sometimes, but always on our side, whatever happens to us. Dr. King, you continue to be an example for us up to this day from the beyond. I felt the need to thank you. At last, but certainly not least, thank you, George Floyd, because he was the catalyst the world needed to open its eyes, the sacrifice which should have never happened. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. It was a wake-up call to start once again, to be ever more vocal and raise our voices even louder. It meant so much for us Black all over the world.
And we will not let this death be washed away by time and be forgotten. George, you trickled a wave that shall never be stopped. You gave us, all of us, a renewed will to progress towards a truly equal and fair society. Ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, it is time to speak the truth and be authentic with ourselves and with society at large. It is time, our time, to make change happen with the restored courage and the passion within us that George Floyd rekindled, to build a culture in which we can all fit in, where we can all collaborate and work and shape new things, healthy, better places, both either physical or metaphoric ones, industries, schools, organizations, political parties, shops, neighborhoods, banks, workplaces, and so on and so on and so on. The list of these places could be pages long. Places where equality and the dignity of some are not respected in full. Places which we cannot yet fulfilled and we cannot feel respected, and that needs us to make something evolve. Places that still need us to scream and shout, using the word of Dr. King himself, that no, we're not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like mighty stream. And for this, for making all of it, we will need to trust somebody. To make change happen, we will need to ask and continue to ask until someone hears us. And once they have heard us, and once we have trusted them, we will need to ask and then ask together. And we will labor together, we will unite, because no one, not even leaders, can alter things on their own. We all need as many allies and comrades as we can find. I started this speech by thanking the ones I trust, because they're the reason I'm here today. I can only say that without them, I wouldn't be here and I would not have accomplished the few things that I managed to do. They were there for me. They supported me. They've asked me. They demanded to be heard. They trusted me as I trusted them. I'm proud, truly, to receive this plaque, because it doesn't and it won't represent my greatness as a leader or whatsoever. It really represents the fact that I trusted so many great and true amazing people. And every time I walk past it, it will always remind me of them. I feel honored to have known so many people who I trust. And it's a privilege to know that so many of you trust me. I will always continue our battle with you on my side. Thank you, DreamKEEPERS. Thank you, community. Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Thank you, Ketchup, and for everything that you do. I actually want to just go back to Jim Puskas, who has an inscription to read related to this also. Jim.
Thank you. The Jean Augustine DreamKEEPERS Life Achievement, DreamKEEPERS Citation for Outstanding Leadership to Ketchup Peters, for focusing on anti-racism and anti-oppression in your active public engagement, champion equality and inclusion, for developing conflict resolution programs that are helpful in resolving tension between police and diverse communities, for your trauma-informed and skilled communication within marginalized and racialized communities that aids their cultural transformation, for highlighting awareness of policing and justice problems as the former community co-chair of the Ottawa Community Police Action Committee, for your leadership that was instrumental in restructuring that committee into the new Ottawa Police Community Equity Council January 2022. A grateful Ottawa salutes you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. All right. We'll now be moving on to our keynote speaker, which is always the highlight of our event. And our keynote this year is none other than the Honorable Jean Augustine. I don't even think I really need the intro, Jean, but just for folks who may not know. Jean Augustine is a Grenadian Canadian educationalist, social advocate, and politician. Jean was the first Black Canadian woman to serve as a federal minister of Crown and member of Parliament. From 1993 to 2006, Jean was a Liberal member of the House of Commons of Canada, representing the district of Etobicoke Lakeshore in Toronto. She also served as the Minister of State for Multiculturalism and the Status of Women in the Cabinet of Canada from 2002 to 2004, and was the Parliamentary Secretary to Prime Minister Jean Chrétien from 94 to 96. Before her election, she had been a school principal, which I didn't even know that, Jean. So my wife was a school principal. So. From 2007 to 2017, she served as the first Fairness Commissioner of Ontario. And following her retirement, she has served as a patron of several nonprofit organizations across Canada. I welcome Jean Augustine as this year's DreamKEEPERS keynote. Jean.
Merci beaucoup, Robin. And I am so very happy to join you. Mr. Mayor and Council, special representatives of government and community organizations, Dr. Daniel Stringer and the team of the Martin Luther King DreamKEEPERS. Today's awardees, Patrick, Sinia, Floyd, Ayan, Keisha, it's a pleasure to hear your the citations read and to know the good work that you are doing and are continuing to do in the city of Ottawa. I must say how pleased I am that the mayor has continued his support over these many years, and the council has also supported the DreamKEEPERS over these many years. I remember being in your hallway and where the occasion is and the celebrations took place, and the great reception by the city of Ottawa. I want to especially greet my colleague and friend June Gervin, because again, it's individuals who stand over these many years who help us to continue this legacy. So thank you all. And as I greet you, as we celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I acknowledge, as you did at the beginning, that we are on the land of Indigenous people, and they are, of course, our host and the ones who are helping or enabling us to celebrate this 17th anniversary of the DreamKEEPERS. If Dr. King was alive today, he would be celebrating his 93rd birthday. Birthdays are very special, as it gives us an opportunity to do several things. You know the image of the Sankofa, to look back, to reflect, and to plot the way forward. And so in these unprecedented times, the opportunity to address you in this virtual forum is special, because you see, this is our new normal. With my participation on this 17th year of commemoration, this occasion takes on a particular significance, and I must congratulate Daniel Stringer and all those who've stood with him over the years as we seek funding to do this, to have this opportunity, as we spread the word and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, as we try to do something in the city of Ottawa. It's important to say that we were able to do this consecutively over these 17 years. I often reference the Sankofa bird because that image is one that I think is so essential and so important. But I want to reiterate my thanks, my gratitude as we look back and as we, in the present, looking forward. This DreamKEEPERS occasion does not only present an opportunity to return to that place, a place of good work, to acknowledge those individuals that you have highlighted and whose work is so important, but also to engage the great example and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday we're celebrating. Dr. King remains a global emblem and a hero for civil rights. He was a leader in the movement to end racial discrimination. And we cannot talk about ending racial discrimination, and we cannot talk about all of the social justice issues that face us without, like Sankofa, the looking back and looking at the legacy of Dr. King. He was an advocate of nonviolent protest and became the youngest man to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize of his time. Dr. King visited Canada many times on speaking engagements, in religious circles, and on fundraising tours. In his Conscience for Change lectures, Dr. King frequently praised Canada for its assistance in the slavery, emancipation work, claiming that Canada stood as the North Star in the battle for freedom. Through the course of his work, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. endured threats, beatings, and bombings. He went to jail 29 times, all to achieve freedom for others. His life and sacrifice forever remains a powerful beacon to us all about the pursuit of peace, social justice, and human rights in all its forms, and the nonviolent means through which we must continue to make progress. Perhaps some people rightfully bristle at the word progress. Have we been making progress from Dr. King's time to today? In light of what seems like the never-ending plight of Black people and other marginalized communities. If the Dr. King of 1968 were to return today in 2020, some 54 years later, would he be surprised at what we would see in North America? The staggering number of Black men in jail, the recurrent killings, the hovering threat of white supremacy, unemployment, underemployment, undereducation, systemic subjugation of rights, single parenthood, economic disadvantage, housing issues, suppression of opportunities, on and on and on. You name it. Those systemic changes are so deeply rooted. It took a long time and a lot of effort to institutionalize the repression of Black folks. Though today there seem to be some positive signals, the documented reality is exactly what we've seen over the last 54 years. You know the old saying, we've come a long way. Yes, we have come a ways. But Dr. King would say, but not far enough. it is clear that the need for Dr. King's message remains strong today, as strong as it ever was. And as we reflect, as we look back, as we look forward, what would his thoughts be? Sadness, disappointment, dejection? Haven't they learned anything? Why are we in society not moving according to his dream? Dr. King's motivation, as outlined in his I Have a Dream speech, would be about how to find ways to continue building that equitable, that just, that fair society today and for tomorrow and for all peoples. That was his motivation. That is his legacy. That should be our motivation, and that should be our legacy. And I thank Dreammakers for keeping that legacy alive. One can elaborate by drawing directly from Dr. King's iconic 1963 letter that he penned while he was in a Birmingham jail. And he wrote, most of you would know this quote, "I cannot sit idly by and not be concerned about what happens. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied to a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And that, my friends, is our charge today. Pitching in to help sow the seeds for a better, just, and fair tomorrow. Our world demands it. I cannot sit idly by and not be concerned about what happens. The pandemic has shown us why this inescapable network of mutuality, that we were all tied to a single destiny, and why it's so important as dream keepers that we keep that dream alive. But as someone doing this for a long time, I spent some time at the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolence in Atlanta. Spent time there with his widow and with his children who were much younger then. And I can tell you that it isn't enough just to talk about Dr. King's goals. One has to live and be committed and must work at the messages that he left us. Messages stemming all the way from Mahatma Gandhi and others whose principles around making change and changing societies. In so doing, in looking back, we know, and the messages that these individuals have given is that it starts with us, starts with the individual, starts with me, it starts with you. We learn more about ourselves even while evolving into the best possible version of ourselves. So how do we do this? How do we take action? So today, January 17, 2022, Dr. Martin Luther King's Day, we can commit ourselves, as your awardees have done, to a life of service, to volunteer. There is just so much in our community that we could engage with in order to make that change. And of course, you know, things like shelters and hospitals and visits to prisoners, homeless, mentoring children, looking at a life of struggle of individuals and seeing what we could do Because there is an old saying, when things change inside of us, when we volunteer, when we commit ourselves to change, then change can happen around us. When your thoughts are based on how to make a positive difference, then your actions bend towards the manifestation of a better world. But that also means being mindful of the detractors around us, those whose thoughts and actions may lend to the pursuit of a better world. Like my old friend, Desmond Tutu, used to say, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good that put together that overwhelm the world. God bless his soul. Friends, in closing, there is so much more that we can each do in our own way to help make a difference. I grew up in Happy Hill, St. George's, Grenada, with a grandmother who was not schooled and had no big degrees, but talked about the global village in which we all live. And also mentioned that each one of us can do whatever we can if each one of us do whatever we can in our own sphere of endeavor. And she used to say, if each one of us can clean up around us, the world would be a very clean place. And so the message is each and every one of us has something to do. And so according to Dr. King, the online question is about the call for service. And someone mentioned it earlier. What are you doing for others? The answer lies in our individual capacity and our willingness to take action. So that means that each and every one of us, in selfless, productive, and nonviolent ways, has to do our part. That is what the world needs now. The old song, what the world needs now. So we need to be keepers of the dream. We need to be dream keepers. And I want to salute the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Floydine Charles Friedel, who has been a dream keeper, who sat at the feet of Africanists, who schooled herself in the life and times of African Canadian and an African in a general way, and who has been working assiduously day in and day out to make the world a better place for herself and all the communities that she does serve. A really, truly lifetime award candidate. And I salute Floydine, I salute you for this, and I salute the work you do, and I salute also the Dream Keepers for bringing you into that circle of lifetime achievers where I'm sure all of us together will be working to make the world that place that's part of Dr. King's dream. Thank you so much for the honor of having me speak at this event.
Wow. Thank you, Jean, for those words that were inspiring and challenging to us. And thank you for keeping the African and African Canadian with that wall behind you. That's right on. So Jean made a reference to our lifetime awardee, who's Floydine, and we'll be getting to that award in a moment. But before that, we did want to note the fact that this is the first time that we're meeting since the passing of Rabbi Bulka last June. And I'm sure if anybody doesn't know, Rabbi Bulka was a longtime supporter of Dream Keepers. I think he attended, every event. And he worked for years to bring people of all religions together to combat hate and promote kindness. In prepping for this, I looked up the video of the 2018 Dream Keepers, and Rabbi Bulka, again, as he spoke there, as he did at many, and what he said was, well, speaks to the man. So he started off with saying, instead of me talking to you, let me share some thoughts from Martin Luther King. And what's interesting was the thoughts he then went on to share were the same thing that Gene focused on, Ayan, where he said, as Martin Luther King said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? He said, right? And he said, an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of the community. And to that, and Rabbi Bolka went on to say, and to that you may ask yourself, how can we make a big difference in this world? The world is so complicated. The world is so large. We're just small individuals. And then he ended by saying, Martin Luther King actually answered that question too. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. And Rabbi Bolka he did small things and big things. So one of the big things he did was to get Kindness Week actually enshrined in law back in, actually it was in June of last year. And it will be celebrated every third week of February, starting this February, so in 2022. And one of the comments he made about that was when it was still trying to get passed, he said, this bill, if passed, as I fervently hope it will be, can potentially raise the Canadian consciousness of the importance of kindness to levels that will make our country even greater and make a large dent in some of the critical issues we face, including mental health, the cost of healthcare, and bullying, among others. So I can only imagine Rabbi Bolka smiling down now in approval of the 5 people we are here to recognize, as they have all, in their own ways, helped to make dents in some of the critical issues we face. So now, given that, I would like to invite Sophia Jacob to introduce our Lifetime Achievement Awardee. Sophia.
Thanks, Robin. Greetings and good afternoon to our distinguished guests, representatives, and community members. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I'm so pleased that I have the opportunity to give the introduction for this year's MLK Jean Augustine DreamKEEPERS Lifetime Achievement Awardee to Floydine Charles Friedel. Going through some reflections as I did some research, I wanted to remember how I came to know Floydine. I met Floydine, as probably many others had, through Meeting of the Minds. I attended my first Meeting of the Minds meeting back in August 2019. And I can tell you from the first encounter with so many brilliant Black folk from across the country, talking about our communities and how we can continually improve the lives of Black folk and Black family, I was mind blown and I was hooked. I had never encountered such a conversation with people from all across Canada. It was beautiful, and I have to give credit to Floydine for spearheading these conversations monthly. Since the first time, I've made sure to attend these meetings regularly, as I've learned so much about other ACB organizations across the country, who they are and what they are trying to accomplish, and how we can work together to continue to build, strengthen, and sustain our Black ecosystem. Many who have attended have also learned what B3 means and how our communities can build up B3 organizations. And again, I give credit to Floydine as she brings so much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Let me also add, for some of the folks who are here who may not know, that Meeting of the Minds and the folk who were the originals who began meeting and having these conversations were also an integral part of CPAD, which is the Canadian Institute for People of African Descent. There's a lot to learn about CPAD, but I'll leave it for everybody to go and learn more about it for themselves. And again, I give credit to those folks and Floydine for bringing many of us up to speed on the CPAD initiative. The Alliance for Healthier Community page has a wonderful write-up about Floydine, where in 2014, Floydine was the recipient at their Health Equity Awards ceremony, where she received the Joe Leonard Award. This award is the highest distinction given by AOHC and recognizes a person that has shown outstanding leadership or raised recognition about the determinants of health on a community, provincially, nationally, and on an international stage. So as I read through the write-up, as I went through and did some research, I found a snippet in the write-up that I wanted to share. It says Floydine credits her mother and her early experiences for solidifying her resolution to work with the most vulnerable populations and to focus on mental health. In fact, she recollects much of her childhood was spent at Scarborough Hospital in the ward where her mother, Audrey Friedel, worked as a psychiatric nurse. Floydine says, from my mother, I learned at a very, very early age about people and about how to work at the same level with those that are the most vulnerable and marginalized. People that cannot speak for themselves need people to advocate on their behalf. As a strong advocate for her community, she began her career working with the Harriet Tubman Community Organization. Here, her work helped to identify Malvern as a community that could benefit from the summer program that the group was implementing in other neighborhoods. The program worked from tenants, a Sankofa, a word from the Akan language of Ghana that in the African diaspora context means the need to reflect on the past in order to build a successful future. The program taught youth in the Malvern community about their history, identity, and about contributions of the Black community on a global scale. The goal was to instill pride and empower the youth of African Canadian community to know their historical significance. After the experience, Floydine went on to the United States to further pursue her studies in clinical social work, a program that is not offered here in Canada or may not be offered just yet. Through her academic studies, she specialized in concurrent disorders and research from a community base. Her first job out of school was a definitely challenging one. In a male prison, she was hired to develop programs for men who had substance abuse problems. Once again, her work involved creating new programs from the group up and lending her experience to identify needs, securing funding, and create services. There's so much more on the website about Floydine's journey, and I would suggest folks take a moment to go and read about Floydine's journey there. I just wanted to mention a few other accolades that Floydine has received. In February of 2021, Floydine received the Community Leadership Award from United Way. In 2018, Floydine received the Black Business Professional Association Harry Jerome Award. This award celebrates the achievement of the Black community and showcases, recognizes, and honors the excellence within the African Canadian community. In 2015, Floydine received Toronto's Public Health Champion Award, and in 2014, Floydine was the recipient of the 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women Award. An interesting part of their write-up about Floydine is that she was the first Black female to earn a Black belt from the Young Ho School of Taekwondo in Florida, USA, and then becoming the state champion in that sport. To date, Floydine is the executive director of the Caribbean African Canadian Social Services Organization. The organization's primary focus is building on and strengthening the service framework for African Canadian children, youth, and families through culturally safe individual and group counseling supports, case management services, employment services, youth mentorship, and youth outreach programs. Floydine is a staunch mental health advocate and works diligently to close gaps and break down barriers of anti-Black racism. Floydine has been the recipient of so many awards and in the space of community services, community and social services and health equity for over 35 years. Floydine, you are amazing and you are a brilliant Black woman, and you are an integral part of not only Toronto's ACB community, but across the country. You have set the precedence of what it truly means to be of service. We want to thank you. We want to honor you. And to us, I can say you are an elder within our community, especially to those who will come to know you and to learn about your work that you have done and how you've given so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome and congratulate the 2022 MLK Jean Augustine DreamKEEPERS Lifetime Achievement Awardee, Floydine Charles Friedel.
Thank you very much for that, Sophia. What a great introduction. Well, actually, before Floydine speaks, I'll give it over to Jim Puskas again to read our final inscription.
Thank you. This is a great pleasure and an honor for me to be able to be present at such an event and to honor such outstanding people. The Jean Augustine DreamKEEPERS Life Achievement Award is presented to Floydine Charles Friedel for blazing a trail of leadership and innovation through the Harriet Tubman Community Association, Youth Clinic Services, Black Health Alliance, Taibu Camp, Rexdale Community Health Centers, Coalition of Rexdale Organizations for the Prevention of Youth Violence, Inner City Health Strategy Group, and Kiswahili, for exposing the role that race and poverty play as determinants of health in Canada, as a community advocate for health equity and social justice, for your initiative in developing a coordinated community response to youth violence and prevention, for your heart of service to work with the most vulnerable populations with a focus on mental health. A proud nation salutes you.
Thank you, Jim. Floydine, over to you.
Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but she, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't, but she would be one who wouldn't say so till she tried. So she buckled right in with the trace of a grin on her face. If she worried, she hid it. She started to sing as she tackled that thing that couldn't be done, and she did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one has ever done it." But she took off her coat and she took off her wrap, and the next thing we knew, she'd begun it. With a lift of her chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quitting, she started to sing as she tackled that thing that couldn't be done, and she did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you will do it. With protocol already having been established, I bring you greetings from Toronto, Toronto on this beautiful and snowy Martin Luther King Day. I have been waiting for snow for, I can't tell you how long. And I wish to thank Dr. Stringer and the team for their wisdom, foresight, and dedication over the past 17 years. I also wish to thank the nominator and selection committee for this award. It would be remiss of me if I did not acknowledge Dr. Jean Augustine as well. Admittedly, I was shocked when I learned that I am the 2022 Jean recipient of the Life Achievement Award. And to be named and to receive an honor that is named after an elder and a visionary who has been a trailblazer, mentor, and an example of insightful, effective leadership in and out of government makes my heart glad. It is also an honor to receive this award that recognizes the Dr. Martin Luther King, because he in particular was a person who was raising up change. And so both Dr. Augustine and Dr. King are change agents that we definitely must continue to raise up. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. King is, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." As a change agent, Dr. King spoke about many things. He had over 350 speeches and several books that many of us have not read or even heard about, but I urge you to really go back and look into that, because many of us know about his "I Have a Dream" speech. However, in my view, there are other speeches that raise who he was up as a change agent. For example, his Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence, where he spoke about tying equal job opportunities and livable wages for a multiracial democracy. He said that class divisions within America can be as vicious and evil as a system based on racial injustice. He underscored the dignity of all his work, that even those who were perceived as the most menial of workers should earn enough so they can live and educate their children and buy a home and have the basic necessities of life. Another speech of his, "I Have Been to the Mountaintop." Many of you may have heard but did not know that that was the speech that he gave the day before he was assassinated, and that he was talking about his contentment with the work he had done while inspiring the crowd to continue to fighting the injustice in Memphis. He was assassinated, as I said, the next day. Then his speech on the other America. And this is not the only time that Dr. King, as a change agent, spoke about economic justice and racial inequalities. Then his other speech, "Our God is Marching On," at the conclusion of the Selma to Montgomery March in Alabama. Dr. King gave a speech to reassure protesters that their work wasn't in vain. And he made and emphasized a critical point that was focused on denying Black people in the South the right to vote, and is inherent to and perpetuates the system of racial segregation. But when we speak about a change agent, what are we really speaking about? We're talking about people who, from whether it's within an organization or a community, they help to transform how it operates. So when we talk about raising up change agents, like those who were acknowledged today, we're talking about people who are bold and are flexible and are visionary. We're talking about people who are inspirational because they influence people to make the changes that are necessary to improve their quality of life and their sense of self and well-being. We talk about people who have the right attitude and the right deportment, and who live in this eternal place of hope, which is a good expectation of. That is the definition of hope. So as we talk today about raising up our change agents and why we're honoring many of us today and recognizing Dr. Jean Augustine and many who have come and have been awarded in the past 17 years, we must remember that we must continue to lift up and not tear down. We must continue to be hopeful. We must continue to be helpful and not just to help, because there is a fundamental difference. We must also continue to dream. We must also continue to strive to reach the mountaintop, because you see, it is important not only for this beautiful country of Canada that we live in, but it's important in particular to Black Canadians who have faced so many barriers as a result of this, the ugliness of anti-Black racism that have existed in this country for a very long time. Earlier, someone mentioned George Floyd, but George Floyd, and even in this pandemic where we have come to realize that anti-Black racism is co-located with so many other pandemics that our communities were already in, that as change agents and raising those people up, it is important for us to do so from a place of integrity, from a place of we and not me, and us and not I. And I am thankful that I have been a recipient of this award. And it is a bit surreal because when you're awarded and recognized for things that you have been called to do, because I will say that every one of us who is listening or who's on this gathering today, that every one of us is called on this earth to do the one thing that nobody else on this earth can do. That's why it's important to recognize what that is and to stay in our lane. That's what Dr. Augustine has done. That's what Dr. King has done. And I will challenge all of you, if you have not yet discovered that path, regardless of what chronological stage you are in life, it is never too late. Because I have committed to my life's work intentionally to remain in community, to remain at the grassroots level, so that I can continue to advocate for those whose voices may not be heard or who don't think that their voice would be heard. It is the change that we need to move us to the place where we aspire to be as it is late in the evening, as the sun sets on the decade for people of African descent. That in this time that we have remaining, as we raise up change agents, we'll be able to report back and say that we have contributed to change in this country in a meaningful way, in a way that leaves a legacy for those who are coming behind them. They say that change is life's only constant. But as a change agent, I am committed to changing the systems and structures that create barriers for every one of us, and in particular for African Canadians. I know then that in doing so, that my work will be complete when we see policies and practices that reflect this. Thank you so much again for this award. It reaffirms for me that it's important to have a dream and to continue to keep dreams alive. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Floydine, for that very inspiring speech, especially that poem off the beginning. Fantastic.
You're welcome. That's credited to Edgar Guest.
So as Floydine knows, I've known Floydine for a few years because, as like Sophia, we met through the meeting of the minds, and you know, I knew a little bit about Floydine, but I learned some things today. Like, I didn't know Floydine had a black belt in Taekwondo, and that explains a lot, because I would often see Floydine ask people for things and just get them, and I'm like, how come that doesn't happen to me? And now I know why. Wonderful. Well, that brings us to the end of our event. So a few closing words. I actually, this will link back to what Dr. Augustine was saying, that some people may feel that we've made no progress more than 50 years after Martin Luther King's death, especially since Black people were still disproportionately hit hard by the COVID pandemic because of systemic anti-Black racism, for example. But, you know, based on the inspiring folks we've heard today, I suggest we look at things differently. All right, slavery lasted over 400 years, including 200 years in Canada, right? But in just under 60 years, we've gone from Martin Luther King and John Lewis being viciously attacked while peacefully protesting in Selma, Alabama, and Canada's Immigration Act barring non-white people from Canada, to having equality for Black folks enshrined in law in both countries, to a Black president, to me hosting today's MLK or event in MLK's honor as a full-time Black activist paid by your tax dollars. Now that is progress that we should all be proud of and continue to build on, right? And we will do that next year, because one of the things we're gonna do next year is we're gonna have a tribute to the Reverend Anthony Bailey, who hosted the DreamKEEPERS event for many, many years. So we look forward to that. But that is it for today's event. Thank you to congratulations to all the awardees for sure. And we look forward to, well, hopefully next year, getting together in person.
Robin?
Yes.
May I?
Yes, June.
Thank you for a great job of chairing. I would like, before we sign off, to say a special word of thanks to Blondine Stringer and to Danielle Stringer for staying the course, and bringing us to this point 17 years later. It's amazing. And I know it hasn't been always easy, but Blandine and Danielle have done a masterful job. So just to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Agreed. 100%, June. All right, everybody. Stay safe, stay warm, and this big snowstorm, and we'll see you next year.